Everyone, thank you so much for joining us for our second webinar on our Webinar Wednesdays series to celebrate National Nutrition Month this March. My name is Marissa Frieder. I'm a program coordinator for the WorkWell NYC program. And before I introduce Elizabeth Solomon, who will be our speaker today, I just want to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do, and then we'll jump right into making meals fun. So WorkWell NYC is the city's worksite wellness program. We are here to help you live well and work well. Our goal is to create worksites that make it easier for our employees to live healthy and active lives. We know that health is not just the absence of disease. It's physical, it's mental, it's financial, it's emotional, many things. And we know that it exists on a spectrum. And so we're here for you with health and well-being resources, programs, and support, no matter where you are on your health journey. WorkWell NYC has a range of programs. We have diabetes prevention classes, we have Weight Watchers meetings, fitness classes, stress management resources, among others. And we encourage you to visit our website to learn more if you're interested. We have heard from you that healthy eating is a very important topic to you, and it's something that is absolutely essential for living a healthy life. Combined with being active, eating healthy can help reduce your risk for a lot of chronic diseases that I know none of us really want to live with. And so we're hoping that these webinars will help meet that demand, and we are always listening for your feedback. So there is a survey at the end of the webinar if you want to share additional feedback with us that will help us tailor future webinar topics. And if you're joining us this week, welcome. We had a previous webinar last week, Nutrition 101, Basic Strategies for Healthy Eating. I just want to add that we will have recordings available for both that webinar and today's webinar, and we will email you when those are ready for broadcast. But we still have 2 more webinars to come. We have next week's webinar on understanding food labels, and we have one on March 28th about healthy drinks. So we hope you can mark your calendars to join us. And before I hand it over to Liz, we're just going to do a quick poll to get us started. So you should see the poll on your screen momentarily, and choose all the options that apply to you. And the question is, we want to know, how do you involve your kids in mealtime? All right, we will give just a couple more seconds. Okay, so it seems like a lot of people encourage their kids to help pick out foods at the grocery store, and a lot of people encourage their children to help them prepare meals or snacks. And so these are great strategies for getting kids involved, whether you're a parent, a caretaker. And so without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Liz, who is the Assistant Director at the Healthy Eating Unit at the City Department of Health. So Liz, take it away.
Thank you so much, Marissa. I'm really happy to be here, and thanks for having me. I'm going to walk through the agenda first. We're going to explore some early experiences with food and what that means for us. We'll be discussing different roles in feeding and what your role is as the adult. We'll share strategies to create a healthier mealtime environment, and then we'll finally put it into practice with a scenario. So after today, I hope that you leave this presentation being aware of your role as the adult in feeding your child, and that you take away at least 2 strategies to use to create healthier mealtimes for young children. So let's start by setting the stage for this presentation. All of us have childhood memories that involve food, whether they're great memories of friends and families gathered together, or horrible memories of being forced to finish something on your plate. And you probably immediately can think of a memory right away. Childhood eating experiences can create food memories that stay with us all the way into adulthood and can influence the way that we eat as adults. So creating positive food experiences is an important part of developing healthy eating habits. And throughout today's presentation, we'll talk about how to help your child or children create happy and healthy food memories that will support them in becoming healthy eaters. Let's take a few minutes to imagine what a perfect mealtime might look like. Here's an image of a family mealtime that looks very successful. Think for a minute about what you see happening in this image that's working well. Notice that the adults and the children are sitting together. Everyone is sitting down, not running around all over the place. Everyone is eating the same meal and the same food. They look happy, they look relaxed. We can presume conversation is taking place. The food on the table looks healthy and well balanced. There's a variety of food on the table. And at least one portion of the meal is served family style from a large bowl with a serving utensil. This allows children and adults to serve themselves the amount of food they want to eat. The child here looks like she's feeding herself with her own fork. And notice that there are no screens, no TVs, phones, tablets, those are put away. So all of these strategies contribute to making the meal pictured here successful. And imagine if you could use some of these same strategies in your home to create healthy mealtimes with your family. Throughout today's presentation, we'll talk more about these strategies and how you can make them happen. I'm going to focus on two major strategies for creating healthy meals. First, I'll talk about the division of feeding roles, or who is responsible for what during mealtimes. And then we'll discuss ways that you can create a positive feeding environment to support a child during mealtimes and reduce stress you might feel as a caregiver during mealtimes. So the first strategy, as I mentioned, is the division of feeding roles, or what we call the division of responsibility during mealtime. So think about mealtimes as a time when a power dynamic exists between parents and children. The division of feeding roles allows both parents and children to be in control of certain parts of the meal. Allowing children to take ownership of a specific part of the mealtime experience empowers them and supports them in developing healthy eating habits. Take a minute and think about who is responsible for how much food you eat every day. Only you can decide what and how much food you eat. No one else knows how hungry you are, how full you are, what your specific mood is, what you like, what you dislike. The same is true for children. But who provides a child with food? The adult caregiver is responsible for providing healthy and nutritious meals to children. The adult is responsible for structuring the time of meals and snacks so that the child is fed regularly. So the parent decides what food to offer and when to serve meals and snacks. It is the child's responsibility to decide how much of any of the foods offered to eat, including whether to eat at all. This might mean that they decide to eat very little some meals, a lot of one food item, or nothing at all. They may decide to eat none of the vegetables you're offering them, but all of the bread. That's their decision, as hard as that may be to accept as a caregiver. While these roles can be applied to children 0 to 17 years old, this presentation focuses primarily on children 0 to about 10 or 11. As children get older, they have more independence in these roles, but they still apply, and they just have to be adjusted a little bit to ensure that children are making good choices about when and what to eat on their own. So let's dive a little deeper into the caregiver's feeding role. I know this may be new and a little surprising to folks, so what does this actually mean? Let's first talk about what to offer. What should a parent offer in terms of meals and snacks? Well, be sure that what you're offering is healthy and well-balanced. If a child is always provided with healthy options, then you can be sure they're always having something healthy and nutritious to eat. I'll provide you resources at the end of this presentation if you want more information on healthy and well-balanced meals. Second, offer food family style. I mentioned that earlier, whenever possible. This means serving at least a portion of the meal with a large bowl with a serving utensil. This allows children and adults to serve themselves the amount of food that they want to eat. So it may take time for a child to learn that they should only serve themselves the food that they will eat. As I'm sure you've heard, sometimes eyes are bigger than stomachs. They may take too much at first, but you can teach them that they should just take a little at first, and when they eat that amount, they can take more if they're still hungry. It's important to make sure the serving utensil is the right size for a child. So having things that are a little smaller than you would for an adult, especially for young children, helps them with the fine motor skills and with getting the food onto their plate. As a parent, you are your child's first teacher. So children learn to eat the foods that their parents eat, and they will learn from you. So if your child sees you eating healthy foods, they will learn to eat that food too. As much as possible, eat the same foods as your child so you can role model healthy eating. Next, offer one meal for children and adults. Don't prepare separate foods for children. This creates more work for you, and you miss out on a chance to role model healthy eating for your child. Again, they'll learn to eat the foods you eat. When offering food, encourage your child to eat, but never force them. Patience works better than pressure. Lastly, it's important to note what not to offer. It's important not to use food of any kind as a reward for good behavior, to prevent bad behavior, or to comfort a child when they're upset. Using food as a reward or can link food to emotions, which could lead to emotional eating. Children are still developing and forming their eating habits and food associations, and during this delicate time, food should only be used to nourish and to prevent hunger. When children are upset, instead offer a hug, listen to why they're upset, or provide some attention through play instead of providing food to calm them down. So the other responsibility that caregivers have is deciding when to eat. We talked about the what to eat. Now let's talk about the when. Meals and snacks should be served at regularly scheduled times. In school or childcare, children are used to having a structured day with meals at regular times. So this helps them regulate their appetite, and it's very important support in developing healthy eating habits and coming to the table hungry. It's also important to eat together as a family. This might mean sitting around a table. It could mean eating a picnic at the park. It could mean eating a family dinner out at a restaurant, or sitting down for a snack at the playground. The important thing is that your child is eating with you, the adult. They're not eating by themselves or just with their siblings while you're cleaning the kitchen or making a phone call. Taking the time to have meals together as a family is very important for children. It might be difficult to do this for every meal or every day, but aim to eat together as often as possible. Now let's talk about the child's role in feeding. It's a child's responsibility to decide how much to eat. This includes which part of the meal or snack they eat and whether they eat at all. And again, I understand that as a caregiver, we want our child to eat enough and to be healthy. So let's discuss what will help children eat the healthy foods you're offering and not too much unhealthy foods. So as discussed, a simple way to help your child develop healthy eating habits is to let them serve their own plate and feed themselves. Again, you can do this by serving family style, using small serving bowls and utensils so that your child can take what they want. Children as young as 2 years of age can do this. And it might be messy at first, but the more practice they get, the better they get at it. And this will be a great way to help your child develop motor skills, manners, table manners, and social skills. When offering new foods to your child, be sure to provide them alongside familiar foods that you know your child will eat. It can be stressful for a child if he or she doesn't recognize the food you're providing, and it can be stressful for you if they won't eat the healthy options you've provided. So by offering new foods with familiar foods, you know that your child will have something that they likely will eat if they don't feel like trying the new foods you're offering. Next, support your child in coming to the table hungry. And we do this by providing regularly scheduled meals and snacks, as I mentioned. This routine will help them regulate their appetite and will help you anticipate when they will be hungry so you can be prepared. It's also important to learn your child's hunger and fullness cues. Are they getting a little cranky, spacey? By learning to recognize these hunger cues and anticipating when they'll be hungry, you can avoid meltdowns that happen because your child is overly hungry. Also, your child's more likely to be open to trying new foods when they're calm and before they're about to have a meltdown. This is strongly supported by feeding at regularly scheduled meals and snacks. On the flip side, you can look for signs that your child is full. Are they slowing down in their eating? Are they starting to get distracted? It's important to respect your child's role in feeding and allow them to decide when they're full and done. If they're done, get it. If they don't get it right the first time, they will soon learn to adjust if you keep regularly scheduled meals and snacks and don't provide outside of these times. So if they leave meal hungry, they will learn quickly not to do that if they have to wait for the next scheduled eating time. Not only should you pay attention, but you can talk to your children about these feelings inside of their body and start teaching them to notice their own hunger and fullness by talking to them about how their body feels, asking them, is your tummy full? Are you still hungry? Etc. The second strategy that we're going to talk about is creating a positive feeding environment, and we'll focus on two big ways you can do this. The first is to have screen-free meals. This includes turning off the TV during meal times, putting away phones and tablets. We are all bombarded with screens and marketing messages, often of unhealthy foods and beverages. It's important to set time aside to take a break from these screens and messages, and meal times are the perfect time to do that. Screens can also distract us from the meal itself and lead to mindless eating, making those hunger and fullness cues harder to identify. Second, and related, mealtimes are a perfect time to share stories and create positive memories as a family. Lots of childhood food memories are created during mealtime, but it's helpful to have conversations during mealtime that are not about the food being eaten. Instead of asking your child if they like the food they're eating, and telling them about how long it took you to make it, ask them about how their day went and what games they played at school. It can be helpful to have a list of conversation starters ready to guide good conversation that's fun and about something other than the meal you're eating. Let your child choose a conversation starter to empower them and get them excited to take part and have fun during meal times. One great example of a conversation starter is to ask each member of the family to share a thorn, which is something difficult from their day, a rose, which is something great from their day, and a bud, which is something they're looking forward to in the future. So we've gone over a lot of information. Let's think about what we just went over and put it in relation to a real life scenario. So here's a typical mealtime scenario for a busy mom and her young son. Sharon, a busy mom, comes home from work after picking up her 2-year-old son, Jaden. She's about to prepare dinner when Jaden asks for a snack because he's very hungry. Sharon at first says no, but Jaden has a meltdown, so she gives him a bag of pretzels to eat while she prepares a healthy meal of chicken, rice, and broccoli. They sit down to dinner, and Jaden refuses to eat any of the chicken, rice, and broccoli on the table. Sharon gives up trying to feed him and instead gets up and makes him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. He eats a quarter of the sandwich because he's already full from eating the pretzels. The meal is otherwise pleasant as they chat about their day, but Sharon feels exhausted. So think for a minute about what Sharon did well based on our discussion of rules and the feeding environment. And I'm going to pass it to Marissa to conduct another poll.
All right, thank you, Liz. So we are going to do a poll and see how well you guys are paying attention. So you should see it on your screen right now. We want to know, of all the things Sharon did, what should she do well? So was it giving Jaden a low-fat snack when he was hungry? Is it making him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich to make sure that he ate something for dinner? Or was it talking to him during dinner? And so it seems like most people are still answering, actually. But yes, so the majority of people said it was that, that She spoke with Jaden during dinner and they had conversation, which, you know, Liz just mentioned is so important. I'm going to flip it back to Liz, kind of talk about what could be done differently in terms of the other answer choices.
Great, thank you, and congratulations. That's right, the conversation was really great that they had that. So tweaks that Sharon could make to help her stick within her role and make everybody's life easier. She could make sure to schedule snacks and provide healthier snacks so Jaden isn't too hungry right before mealtime. Maybe she can bring a healthy snack to him for the way home, and so that would sort of buy some time between snack time and dinner time, and maybe it could be something slightly healthier than pretzels. She should always trust Jaden to decide how much to eat. So instead of, he seemed done, so instead of making the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, she could have just trusted him. And then, of course, she should avoid making that different dinner. So trying to avoid, even though it's so easy to do, making that sort of kid-friendly extra thing. Great. Okay, so to wrap up, I'm going to just talk a little bit about some resources that are available to you to support you in serving your family healthy meals. You can visit the New York City Health Department's website at nyc.gov/health to get lots of material and information. If you search for healthy eating, you'll find links to materials including the Healthy Eating and Active Living Guide, a variety of recipes and handouts, such as our plate planner. If you search for farmers markets, you'll find information about how and where to access local produce, which is a healthy and delicious way to eat more whole fruits and vegetables, which are part of a healthy diet. Farmers market maps are available on the website, and they'll show you the location of free public on-site nutrition education workshops and cooking demonstrations that take place at select markets from July through November. The USDA, www.choosemyplate.gov, has a variety of healthy eating resources, including a sign up for daily tips, a place to track your eating, and handouts and recipes. So that is a great resource to check out. And finally, you can find other great resources at the WorkWell NYC website for helping to enhance the health of city employees in the workplace and beyond. So thank you so much for attending, and I'm going to turn it back to Marissa to finish.
All right, thank you so much, Liz. We're so glad you all were able to join today. And while we're waiting for some questions to come in, you can type those in the chat box in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. We just want to remind you that we really appreciate your feedback, and it helps us create content that is the most useful to you. So you'll see a survey link on your screen. You can copy paste it into your web browser to answer a few short questions. You'll also get a follow-up email with this survey link. And I know last week we had some questions about the link not working. It is cap sensitive, so make sure the M and the F are capitalized. Copy paste is probably the easiest way to go. And if you fill out the survey and you'd like to get your own free WorkWell NYC My Plate, that's the plate that shows you the division of fruits, vegetables, starches, etc. on your plate, you'll be able to enter your contact information and we will mail you one. So let's see what questions we have for Liz. One that I see is, what are your suggestions for getting picky eaters to eat their vegetables?
That is the golden question that probably every parent of young children wants to know. So definitely everything that we talked about today does help what we call choosy or picky eaters. So making the mealtime environment positive in all the ways that we talked about, and giving agency to the child to decide whether they're going to even try the vegetable, you eating the vegetable with them. Those are all sort of the foundation. Other steps you can take is to make the vegetables varied and fun. So just because your child, won't eat raw carrots doesn't mean they won't eat them cooked, or it doesn't mean they won't eat them shredded. You have to keep trying in different ways. You can make it fun by, you know, making fun shapes on your plate. One of the exercises that we do with kids is we have them make a face out of vegetables or kebabs. So getting your child involved in the kitchen is another great way where you know, they're more likely to try food if they are involved in preparing it.
Great. And Liz, I know you mentioned earlier on that, you know, these tips are applicable from 0 to up to 17. What do you think is the earliest age to really start implementing? Is 2 years old okay? Someone wants to know.
I would say at birth is the way that you start implementing this. So when a baby's born, you know, best practice is to feed. Well, actually, I apologize, because best practice is to feed on demand. So the thing that is different from with a baby is that it's not scheduled feeding, but the baby is still just deciding how much to eat. You as the adult are not. You're in charge of what to provide. So as the baby grows into being, you know, a toddler infant, so within the first year of life, you're setting up that schedule of eating, and you are in charge of what is being served, and the child is responsible for how much.
Great, and I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions. So, Liz, someone is asking, you know, they heard you that you're supposed to let the child eat, you know, just the parts that they want, but what do you do if they only eat the carbs at every meal? You know, how do you ensure that they are getting nutrition while still giving them the agency to pick and choose what they want to eat off their plate?
Again, a great question, and I'm sure you're not alone with that concern. I think the ways, so this is like the ideal, and it is very hard to do as a parent. I know I have young children as well, and they actually are very choosy. So as best you can, try to stick to this. The ways that you can encourage them to eat other things besides pasta and bread, which is, I think, what you're saying, are to include, you know, proteins and fruits and vegetables in the pasta dish itself as best you can. Keep trying with a variety of different options. I'm guessing that they're probably getting more variety than you think if you think about their whole day. Don't stress over just one meal. It's not worth it, and it's never a great idea in the long run to force kids to eat things that they really don't want to. You're just going to have battles, and mealtime will be miserable.
All right, and one last question. What do you recommend about dessert? Should dessert be put on the plate, put on the table? How should that be handled?
That is another great question. Some experts in the field recommend putting dessert right on the table at the same time as the meal to, again, avoid that if you eat this, then you can have that scenario. Because when we do that, when we say you have to finish your vegetables to get dessert, we, number one, make vegetables sort of the terrible thing to get to the golden thing. So we kind of reinforce the idea that the vegetables are the thing that the kid shouldn't want. And two, we could be encouraging overeating because we're saying you have to eat more. So some folks recommend that you put the dessert right on the table at the same time. I personally don't do that with my children. One, typically we don't have dessert every night, so it's not a given. Two, if I am serving dessert, it is never contingent upon what my kids eat for dinner. They get dessert. If I'm serving dessert, they get dessert regardless. And what I find is they actually regulate their fullness well. And if they're really not hungry, they might have a little dessert, but they won't finish what I offer. And three, I try to make desserts, you know, as healthy as possible by choosing, you know, fruit or other healthier options. Not that we don't also have treats from time to time.
All right, Liz. Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for joining us. Once again, we will be emailing the survey link. And these webinars will be available once they're recorded. You will also be notified by email. And so thank you everyone for joining, and we hope to see you next Wednesday for our third webinar, which is What's in Your Food? Reading and Understanding Food Labels. So thanks so much and have a great day.
Thank you.